Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, jbiztechphilly.com, and also now the columnist for the Jewish Press.
That's right, and I talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. Well, with us, and he was already mentioned in my column in the Jewish Press, is Sam Fein. He is an assembly staffer, but he just got elected to the Albany County Legislature at the tender age of 25.
Yes, correct.
Wow,
yeah.
It took you a quarter of a century to get to the Albany County Legislature.
Yes.
Now, your family is from the Albany area, but you came here from Newton or
Yes,
Massachusetts,
Newton, Massachusetts,
which is a suburb of Boston,
just west of Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why? So you essentially chose Albany to be your place to live. And then you ran for office. You're here like less than a year, or
No, over two and a half.
Well, where did you go to college?
I went to Union College in
So
Schenectady.
that's local.
So that's how I got acquainted with the region.
It's another county. So when you talk about county issues and county government, that's what I'm saying. You really have to be here in this county. So in Albany County, he's only been here 2.5 years.
Capital District, though, you get used to.
So what do you do in the assembly?
I do communications. So I work for the Democratic Conference. We write press releases, mailers. So some of the mail you might get from your local assembly member might be designed in my office.
Okay. And might have your handiwork as a ghostwriter in there.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. Okay, so you're very talented. What made you want to run for county legislature? It was an open seat. It was a new district. It covers the riverfront, basically, from the south end all the way up to Delaware Avenue, where your house is.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in politics and thought about getting involved in politics, and so I feel that the best way to really make a change is through changing policy, and especially the local government. I think you can make a big difference. And community I'm living in, there's a lot of inequality, there's poverty, there's a lot of vacant buildings. I think there's not enough for the youth to do, and youth are really struggling. So I saw a lot of issues, and I thought the best way to really make a difference was running myself and really pushing for the policies that I thought would make a difference.
Were you a one-man band campaign, or?
I had a good friend of mine ran the campaign. He was my campaign manager.
That's it, the two of you.
Well, I had a lot of volunteers. I had friends volunteered for me. Community members who were supportive went door to door for me. So I had a lot of support in the community, and that really helped.
Now, what's so ironic with this is that this district was really drawn as a new minority-majority district where the majority of the residents were minorities.
Yes.
Now, you don't look like you're...
He is a minority.
He's Jewish
over here.
He's Jewish. And you'd be the only Jewish legislator in the county legislature. So, you really are a minority within a minority.
I guess so, but, I'm a white person, and
yes,
the district was created... there was a lawsuit that went on for years about the district because there weren't, when the redistricting was done after the 2010 census, there weren't enough minority-majority districts created. And so there's a Voting Rights Act lawsuit. And so right before, shortly before actually election got started, they redrew the lines, created one more minority-majority district. And so that's the 6th district that I'm representing.
Now, it's ironic that they drew it to have someone of either black or Hispanic, supposedly win, and then you won and kind of ticked off some members in the African American community.
Well, I think some people view it as ironic, but I think the people really did choose because, my view is the district was created so that minorities would have a choice of who they want to represent them, and that person, they can choose whoever they want regardless of race. So, I feel that I won because people didn't vote based on race. They voted based on who they thought would represent them best and the issues that I was talking about. And I really made the effort to go out and meet people, build relationships with people in the community. And I think that's what really matters. People want to know that they have a representative who's going to, who they know, who they can trust, and who's going to follow up with them and reach out to them, listen to their concerns. So I think that's why I really won.
And you won handily. You just didn't win by like 10 votes or something.
Yeah, I think it was about 60 votes. It was about 43% in a three-way primary.
Right.
So yeah, it's a pretty strong win. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you really only needed 34%, you got 43%,
Yeah.
which is great.
You know, it's
yeah.
interesting though, Mark, but really you talk about minorities that really, maybe from the history, you don't want to say ghost, but this really was a Jewish area.
And that's what we're going to get to. Your good segue.
There you
Because
go.
his grandparents or great-grandparents were from the south end of Albany. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my great great grandfather and my great great grandparents moved from Lithuania to Albany, into the capital region, with my great grandfather and his 11 other siblings. My great grandfather was preteen years, and they lived. My great grandfather, they lived on 499 Delaware Ave. My great grandfather grew up there. I'm told, my grandmother tells me that my great 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 grandfather actually, when he'd moved places and there wasn't a synagogue, he'd found a synagogue, so he was involved in the founding of a couple synagogues in Albany, but I'm not sure which ones. I have to, verify that. But so he grew up.
And was his last name Fein?
His last name was Breslaw, because it's on my grandmother's side. So
Breslov?
so it's actually my great great grandfather spelled it Breslaw. But my great grandfather was the one out of 12 siblings who switched the spelling to LAU. So it's both. So my family, my great grandfather's brother. A lot of the brothers had different businesses in the Albany area. One was the Breslaw Brothers Furniture on South Pearl Street, and that was spelled with a W. And there was there was one in Schenectady, a Breslaw Brothers Furniture in Schenectady, and there's, I think, some others throughout the capital region. There was also, I believe, a mill end shops which sold like custom drapery on North Pearl Street, and we had some of those. Family had some of those throughout the capital region, and there was a Swire Appliance on South Pearl Street. So it's nice to
Come back to your
come
roots.
back to my roots, where my family had a lot of businesses in the area.
Well,
in the
it's
district.
interesting because this goes back to what, the 1920s that your
Yeah, I believe.
great-grandparents, 100 years ago?
Yeah, about, I don't know the exact years, but around then.
Because I don't want to say this, but I think that's when Moshe Losik's father came and had his
1930s.
Losik furniture also.
Late 30s, but the Jews were in the furniture business.
Yeah, I'm
Right,
told
yeah.
there were a lot of Jewish-owned businesses
Yeah.
in the South End.
It's always a shame. I mean, I come from Chicago, but that same idea of a Jewish neighborhood.
Yeah.
So in Albany, you don't even feel that way, even though there's a cluster around the Skyline Whitehall Road, but you don't feel there's a Jewish bakery and a Jewish,
Yeah.
Right.
you don't feel Jewishy, so
Yeah,
like you
there's
can't
not
say-
a kosher deli to go to and get a nice sandwich.
But there's a
go.
kosher vegetarian restaurant that you can go to get a nice Indian flavored
really?
kosher
Terra.
vegetarian, yes. That's on Washington Avenue called Terra.
Oh, okay, I didn't know
it's
that.
between Lark and Henry Johnson. So I'm here to tell you.
There you go.
Always
Try to
promoting.
build up the Jewish community.
right.
Yeah.
So so the Jewish community started here in the 1880s, really to form, and then every 20 years there was another influx of
Yeah.
Jews. So your great-great-grandparents were the Lithuanian
Yeah.
Jews that came?
Yeah,
Okay.
they came from Lithuania.
And what do you know the city or?
No, that's,
No.
I don't know
You
that.
keep
So-
up your Jewish, you're from Newton and then you went to Union. You had a
Yeah.
bar mitzvah and the Jewish education.
Yeah.
It's like, and then Union College.
Yeah, a lot of Jews at Union also.
And you
But
went.
yeah,
And you went to the Chabad at Union.
yeah, I'd go to Chabad for Friday night dinners at Union, for Shabbat
It's
dinners.
like keeping up the Jewish
Yeah, I keep up,
continuity.
strongly identify with, my Jewishness, and I celebrate the holidays. I tend to go to temple, twice a year. but,
All right, there you go.
Maybe more. Okay.
Maybe more for a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah.
There
but-
you go.
Okay.
But really, what I enjoy most is celebrating, Passover and Shabbat dinners with family, and
Oh,
that's-
okay. Very
Excellent.
good. So
Yeah.
you're more of a cultural Jew, if anything.
I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were gravitating towards one type of Jewish tradition or another, were you more towards Reform, Conservative, or Orthodox?
Yeah, if I'd pick one, I'd identify with Reform Judaism. I was raised Reform Jew, went to Reform Temple.
Hmm. Now,
But you go with Chabad, so at least
I go
Chabad
to-
is for everybody.
that's
Yeah,
true,
really it.
absolutely. No,
yeah, and
it
sometimes
absolutely is.
people say you're a Reform Jew, but you go to Chabad. And well, yeah, I mean, it's open to everyone, and people of all different sects.
Oh.
At least at Union, we go to Chabad, and there was always open discussion about Jewish views and Jewish laws, and it's a place where everyone was welcome.
Absolutely,
Excellent,
absolutely,
good.
without a doubt. So I wanted to talk to you now about the county legislature, which
Yeah.
you're about to enter in January. So there was a big, sea change, relatively speaking, in the county legislature, where 35% of the legislature will be new members.
No, I wanted to ask you, Mark, why do you think that is? That's a very big turnover. Maybe it's the pay isn't good, or it's just
A lot of
the status?
retirees. A lot of people, it's like the changing of the old guard. A lot of people just simply got tired of the drudgery of having to go to these meetings, not having their opinion respected in some cases. Other times they
Well,
would.
the pay isn't good either. I mean, it's not
No,
like a
the
real
pay,
job.
it's a part-time job, but the pay is not supposed to be a full-time salary. The pay is good, and you get health benefits with it. And there's one guy, Gil Ethier, who's been there for 35 years or 40 years. I mean, so you do have the institutional memory there, but there are just a lot of people who just want to serve and not make it a lifetime commitment. So they move on.
Well, that's good also.
That's good
You know,
also,
it's just
because you
like
get
the
new blood like
citizens.
Sam.
There
in
you
here.
go.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're the youngest member of the legislature.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I guess Chris Higgins used to be, and
Yeah.
you stole that mantle away from him.
I guess so. Well, I'm sure he knew eventually.
Someone would have.
Yeah.
He'd get old enough where
Yeah.
someone would have to come in. So there are 7 members of the 14. Half of the members are replacing retiring members of the same party. So of all of those who retired, there's no change in the party affiliation. There were 2 seats that flipped when the incumbent retired, meaning that a Republican like Peter Klaus, when he retired, Richard Touchette, a Democrat, took that seat in Queens.
Right.
And, Peter held on to that seat for probably a good 35 years.
Right.
And then Paul Bergdorf, when Rich Jacobson retired and didn't run again, which he was on the show, Rich.
No, of course.
And-
Most of these people.
Yeah, and Paul Bergdorf, he's a Republican, so he took a Democratic seat. But it just doesn't change there are still 10 Republicans and
The alignment,
29
yeah.
Democrats. So, and then you had 3 legislators who ousted incumbents of the same party, which I feel is really incredible. And it was all the New Scotland, town of New Scotland, town of Bethlehem, Guildland, that whole section.
But you
the
didn't take
suburbs.
over, you didn't, what's your personal, who was there before you?
Well, it was a new seat that they drew, but I look at it when I have to scramble and align
Yeah.
whoever. It was 6th district was
Noel Kinch.
Noel
Yeah, you're
Kinch,
right.
yeah.
It's kind of complicated because
It wasn't really-
the 6th
yeah.
district used to be represented by Noel Kinch, but it is a much different district.
Yeah.
The lines are almost all completely different.
Yeah.
So
You probably have 2 blocks that are similar to our
Yeah.
district that
Yeah.
overlapped her district.
yeah, my district actually overlaps with a multiple,
Right.
few of the former.
Yes.
Um,
They took a little bit from
Yeah.
here and there. But there were 2 legislators who ousted incumbents of the opposite party, and 1 Democrat and 1 Republican.
So the alignment's still the same?
So the alignment's still the same, but it's just interesting to see how many people, how many
Switch over.
of the same party, and 10 of them, were just of the same party, and they're just new people, new Democrats, let's say. 'cause
Sam,
they're all
what
Democrats.
are the issues that you ran on that you see that needs correcting, or nothing's perfect in the world, so what were like the main issues that you were
the main
elected on?
The main issue that I, would speak to people about, and it's probably the main issue that people spoke to me about and said was their biggest concern, was a lack of programs for the youth.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's for minorities? Do you think because they're minorities? I mean, I'm just saying, a person middle class saying, hey, I'll go to a club, or I'll go to, like a Jewish
Yeah.
kid, I'll go to the JCC, I have enough what to do. But maybe from a low
Yeah, I think-
low-income minority people, hey, I want the government to step in and help.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of it is, in lower income neighborhoods, a lot of these neighborhoods have been ignored for a while. People aren't getting the services they need. And yeah, for instance, a middle class family might be able to afford to send their kids to a, costly summer camp or drive their kids every day to a soccer program. But, lower income people often don't have the time for that, can't afford transportation, working many hours just to feed their family. So it's a very tough situation. So I think that's where the government needs to step in and really provide these programs to people. And also another aspect of this is I think there are some existing programs that there's not proper outreach, so people don't know what's available to them.
Well, Trinity Institution
Yeah,
is a big,
Trinity Institution,
which is run by a Jewish guy, Harris Oberlander.
Oh, okay, I didn't know
And
that. Yeah.
he's someone who's...
I wouldn't think Trinity doesn't sound like a
Right.
Jewish
Thank
organization,
you, but
so I'm
that's who
surprised by
runs
that.
it, and he does a very good job there.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, but there are a couple of new places that just cropped up near Lincoln Park.
There's the Capital South Campus Center,
Right.
which is providing some college classes to people in the neighborhood, and I think that's a good thing. But again, I think outreach is a big issue. You really have to get the word out to people that there's programs out there that they can use, and I think we really have to do a better job at that. But it's not just the outreach.
And
It's that there aren't enough
Pastor
programs.
Charlie opened up something across from Capitol Park.
From the Capital South Campus Center?
Yeah,
there's
Pastor Charlie opened something up there where he has opportunities for kids after school also.
Yeah, although I'm not sure how much that's being utilized, if it's fully operational. But
That's something to promote.
These are church organized, or it's
Yeah.
government? It's church.
No, church, yeah.
church. Well, the Capital South Campus Center, I think, is a partnership with government and nonprofits. The
Right.
Trinity Alliance.
That's right. But I'm talking about, I was asking
Yeah.
about
All right,
Pastor, yeah.
close,
But there's another big issue, oil trains, that I'm sure you
Oil
heard
train, yeah.
a lot about. And what's your thoughts on the oil trains? Get rid of them, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to get rid of them, but unfortunately it's not as simple as that. The county, the railroads are up. It's a federal government issue.
And why do you want to get rid of them?
Well, the oil trains.
And do you personally, or are you just echoing your constituents?
Well, it's both. I mean, I've actually was involved before I ran for office in an organization called PAUSE, which is People of Albany United for Safe Energy, that is pushing back against the oil trains. So it's actually an issue I've cared about
Okay.
before I ran for office. But definitely my constituents care a lot, and I think there's
Right.
two main issues with the oil trains. One is an oil train could derail, as there have been many derailments throughout North America. There was
Some.
one in one
is too
one
many.
is too much. Well,
That's
there was
right.
one in Lac-Mégantic, Quebec,
Right.
and 47 people died.
That's the one everyone points to, yes.
Yeah. So and the amount is going up because since the fracking boom in North Dakota and the rest of the country, the amount of oil coming by rail has shot up. So there's more derailment. So that's a risk. Is what if a train derailed in Albany? It would be disastrous. Hundreds of people would probably die.
Oh, please.
So,
okay.
but that's not the only issue. I think probably the biggest issue of concern for people in my district is just the health hazards, the fumes that go into the air. There's higher rates of asthma. A lot of
From
the South
these
End.
trains?
Well, I
From
think
these trains?
it's not only the trains, it's the trains and the industrial sites and the diesel trucks, the highways there. So I think it's, that the South End, that neighborhood has really been, for a long time, a dumping ground. Industrial sites have always been put there, and without regard to the people living there. A lot of the public housing buildings were built right near these sites.
Federal housing.
Yeah.
And the federal tracks. So there was some brainiac in the federal government who said, hey, let's build housing and let's build trains and let's put them near each other. I mean,
Well, I'm not sure exactly who made that. I think the state and the city was involved. I mean, there's the Albany Housing Authority. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure who exactly made the decision to put public housing there or the trains.
It was
but
a federal brainiac.
it was done, and now there's negative consequences.
So let me tell you my solution.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've said this many times on the show. You know how you have noise barriers on the thruway?
Yeah,
and they look nice.
yeah.
They're not like when they first built them. They've gotten refined and
Okay.
they're looking
Yeah.
better. Well, you could put up barriers, around the tracks so that if it does derail, it's not going to go very far, the train. And if it does catch on fire, it's going to be contained where you can get in and you can into behind the wall and you can put out the fire. So you're saving lives if you just simply have the federal government, because it's federal land and all that, and the federal government is building a tunnel underneath the Hudson River. They're building money for the 2nd Avenue subway.
Yeah.
They got money to throw around all over the place. Well, upstate and other areas should have some of that money too for safety and build a fireproof or fire-resistant wall.
Well, yeah, the trouble
And
is...
then it would look
Yeah.
nice. It would be, and you wouldn't see the trains, and they would be hidden, and
Mark,
everyone would
maybe you ought to
live,
run for public office over here.
and everyone would be
Maybe.
happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That's a
the
bad
trouble
idea.
is that
Not a bad idea.
there is money to have. I mean, the federal government does have money, and they do give out money, but it's hard to get them to give us the money to create that safety feature, and you have to make sure the wall is fireproof and
Fire resistant or fireproof. There's no such thing as fireproof.
fire resistant.
I think, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. I'd like to see the oil train stop. I understand that that's probably not totally realistic. I mean, maybe over time, if we move towards clean energy, we won't use oil, but that's not something that's going to happen
What about
tomorrow.
the XL pipeline? Would that?
The
I don't even
Keystone
know.
XL?
Yeah, the Keystone, yeah, that's
That's
what,
been,
Well, yeah, that's not happening anymore.
the
But
president put the kibosh
I
on
mean,
that.
it'll be
Yeah.
a new president in a year, maybe.
well, I don't think that's a good solution either.
Really? Why not?
Because it can contaminate the groundwater.
Really? I'm not a scientist,
Yeah.
so I just,
And I suppose you're against fracking too.
Yeah, and also one of the issues with the Keystone XL pipeline was the oil it's bringing down is tar sands oil from Canada, which is one of the dirtiest types of oil. So it's just making the global warming issue even worse.
But we
using
got
that
away
type-
from coal.
But actually, one of the reasons why the company doesn't even want to build it anymore because it's too costly now. With the price of oil so low, it doesn't make economic sense for them to use this tar sands oil
And you
and
know
ship it
why the
down,
price
so-
of oil is so low? Because of North Dakota and the fracking.
Yeah, so
And that's why,
So that's one small benefit, I guess.
Isn't
the
that
negative
great?
is that we have all the oil trains coming
Isn't that
through
great?
the port of Albany.
and they haven't caught on fire yet, and they haven't derailed yet.
They have derailed.
Locally.
Locally, no.
That's right.
One's too
There's been
many,
some
Mark,
spills,
also,
but-
I mean.
Well, you know what? Then we wouldn't be driving cars because you know what? When the cars were first built, they were combustible engines and they were blowing up all over the place, and people were
Well, there's
saying
a lot
we're
of
going to
car
die in
accidents, too.
cars.
People
and,
do, I mean.
And you know what? A lot of people die in cars, but we're not getting rid of our automobiles. And these things happen, and that's life. And you just have to, for progress, we got to stop saying no to progress.
Well,
And that's what,
I view progress more as moving towards clean energy rather than continuing
I agree
and
too,
upping the
but
amount of
just
oil
like
we're using.
But you know what? We've been talking about clean energy from before you were born in this
Yeah.
country. So we've been talking about
Well, they
clean
are moving
energy.
forward.
We're
Coal is
moving.
getting-
And
yeah,
now when
coal
they
is moving.
now when they build solar farms
Yeah. Right.
for solar energy, now people are saying, "Oh, that's not good because it's not allowing the sun's rays to get into the ground and it's destroying the nutrients under the ground, and these solar panels are unsightly." And they talk about, other reasons why you can't do this. Wind farms are not unsightly for some people, not for others. Others, it's a work of art. I mean, you're going to have these discussions
Yeah.
all the time.
No solution's perfect. I haven't heard
That's
that
right.
about the solar panels.
It's
Sun not getting into the ground. But I would think if it's on a roof, the sun's not going to, if it's a roof solar panel,
But
the sun's just going to go into the panel rather than the roof.
But there's these, like, I was in Suffolk County in Hauppauge, and they have these huge numbers of, like, the whole county government facilities run on solar.
Yeah.
And you,
Really?
yeah, and you have these huge solar fields, and so there's different types of, other than your house, which takes a long time
Yeah.
to recoup the investment. So
But yeah, I think with these oil trains, you know, I'd like to see them go, but in the meantime,
Okay.
you know, in the meantime, I think we need
Sure,
to come up with a solution so that people living near them aren't suffering from all these safety issues, health hazards. You know, they're trying to make the trains safer. You know, I think that's great, but at the same time, I think it's never going to be totally safe.
So is there an
it's a
environmental
complicated
committee on the county legislature that you want to be on, or
Well,
what's the equivalent of it?
The committees that I'm thinking that, you know, I haven't requested my committees yet. The committees I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
probably Social Services Committee, possibly the Health Committee.
But is there an energy or an environmental committee in the county legislature?
I'm
Going to
not
wait to be with the
100%
assembly
sure.
over here. He's going to have to be assemblyman. Mark, well, a few more minutes. Catch a few more issues.
Yeah, Albany High School vote. Sam, you had said that you were in favor of the city spending $196
Yeah.
million
Yes.
on a new high school when there's a 54% dropout graduation rate at Albany High. Now, if you were a bad student and you did something wrong and you only got a 54 on your test, would you go home and be praised and say, you know what, go out and play, or here's a new toy, or here's something else that's new? You know, and no, you would be saying, get your grades up. That's what you need to do. We don't need the fancy
Well,
schmancy.
what would say, Sam, why do you think that would...
So why were you in favor of this?
I mean, I've been in the high school, not that I live in Albany, not that my kids go to Albany High, but I have been
Yeah.
there, and it looked fairly decent to me. I mean, it says the roof leaks, but to knock down a whole high school and make a new one.
They needed a lot of repairs, the high school. It wasn't in very good condition. There's a lot of evidence that when there is a better school, students perform better. And, you know, I don't really think I think rather than trying to, you know, blame the students saying I think the 54% dropout rate is really...
Graduation rate, I think?
Graduation
Yeah.
rate is even more reason why we need to build a new high school, because we need to make sure, we need to fix this problem. You know, students aren't succeeding, so we need to, you know, it's not going to solve everything, but, you know, the school, a better school, I think, will help.
I hope to know you in
but
25 years where I can ask you about this
also,
again.
but also, the city, the school district was saying that whether or not, if we don't fix this, if we don't rebuild the high school for $196 million, we're going to have to spend $100 million just to renovate it because there's so many issues with it, and to expand it to accommodate the higher amount of students. Also, the state was actually paying for 63% of it. We're getting 63% state aid.
Doesn't matter.
So I think, you know, it would make sense. It made sense to take advantage of that state aid.
Let me tell
I mean,
you,
really, the students.
the old
Yeah.
Albany High School
Yeah,
on, I think, Madison or Western Avenue
yeah.
is still standing, could still be used. I think it's going to be taken over by New Albany, and I think that's still there, and that was built over 100 years ago. So, I don't think, and that doesn't have a pool, and I don't know why the new Albany High or the current Albany High needs a pool. I didn't have a pool in my high school. Did you have a pool in your high school?
I didn't.
Okay, so
I
what,
did.
you know, what is this whole thing where they need a swimming pool? I don't get
Well,
it.
there's a swim team, right?
So?
Well, you know, you can have arguments about, does it need a pool? Does it need does it need this feature? You know, the plan
They
that
can go
put,
over to the Albany JCC and use the pool there.
Yeah.
I mean, but it
I mean,
seemed
they
like
can-
it was too opulent.
I didn't, you know, the plan might not have been perfect. There could have been some things in there that weren't necessary, but I think overall, I think it was necessary. They needed to totally rebuild the high school. It's over 40 years old. You know, I think it was time. I think the students deserve a good school, and so I think it made sense. And the fact that the state was going to pay for 63%, we didn't want to, you know, miss out on that state aid. You know, it was a very close vote. Unfortunately,
It was
failed.
10
It was
votes
10
after
votes on
election
election
day,
night.
but I think 40 votes when the absentees were
I
counted.
Pretty
thought it
close.
was 90 or
90
something,
votes?
but
Okay,
I
so
could be
it
wrong,
failed
yeah.
by less than 100 votes.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
it's very close, and
Very-
it was
it
over
shows-
11,000 votes.
It
or
shows you
something.
every vote counts.
It really does.
yeah.
No, it's important.
And people
It is
don't
important.
believe that. More people need to get out and vote.
All right, well,
Definitely.
That's it over here, Mark? You're done with your questions?
it's just about...
We're gonna, Sam, we're gonna have to
Okay.
have you back after a little experience in
Okay,
the Albany
sure.
Legislature, because then you'll have some real issues. You'll tell you what
Yeah.
real politics are all about, handling over there. But in the meantime, we wish you a lot of great success. You have a full life ahead of you, thank God, and a full career ahead of you. So like Mark says, we'll check in with you in the future and see what's up. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay,
Much
thank you
continued
very much.
success. Much continued
Yeah.
success.